are here? How many are founders? How many are investors? Just founders. Awesome. Investors. About 2 or 3 investors. We need more investors, so we're gonna have to figure out how to get more money through the door. But thank you so much. I'm Edison Zavala. I'm one of the co-founders of AI Salon. I'm here with my 6 other co-founders who will have an opportunity to introduce themselves in a short while. But I'm gonna, in the meantime, just ask them to stand up so you can visually see who they are. And we are all resources throughout the evening. So Alex, if you don't mind standing up. Dolores, raise your hand so that they can see you. Patricia, please raise your hands. Everybody knows Patricia. Juan is someplace around. And then we have other colleagues who are traveling, and that's why they're not here. So thank you so much for coming. We are AI Salon. We're a community of founders, investors, community partners interested in AI and developing AI solutions and helping build the ecosystem here in Miami. We have had an opportunity since the inception of AI Salon now 6 months ago to partner with Manatech, who has been a great host, who has given us space to every month. Giving us the space and the opportunity to do this pro bono, absolutely pro bono. So I'm gonna pass it to Nelson to give us a brief intro to Manatech and why we're here. Nelson.
Thank you. First of all, welcome to Manatech. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Fernando Carriello, and I remember 6 months ago when the AI Salon was founded and came to this, we had less people. Now we also have to have so many more of you coming here. Manatech is the vision of a man, Moish Mana, that dreamed that we could make in Miami a hub for technology innovation in downtown Miami. If you don't know who is Moish Mana, Moish is from humble regions, coming from Israel to New York to start his business. And in 2009, he came to Miami and had the idea to develop Wynwood. Wynwood was, I was in Miami before Moish was in Wynwood, and I dare not to go there. And today everyone knows Wynwood up here. And what we're doing here in the Flagler District to transform what is Miami today in a technology hub, an innovation hub, connecting the Americas. As Moish says, there are 1.2 billion between Canada and Terra del Fuego. While you're looking to someplace else, we have the people, have the talent, have the capital, have the community building. What we need someone to be the captain for that. And Marcel, let me do that. His vision is to have this place, this whole area, as the center stage for everyone that wants to develop technology and to eventually do business and to connect the Americas. So you guys are here because of Moish. You guys are here because of his vision that Manatech technology can unite us and can develop the whole region that we are part of. So we are very happy that we're here. Thanks all for coming. Keep on using our space, our community. You are part of the community that the Manatech Hub wants to be, and this we are accomplished that with you guys here. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Moshe and to our colleague Etienne Aguilar, who has flown to Tokyo to partly host AI Salon Tokyo, and that's why he's not here. Another reason why this happens is because businesses in the community have been able to sponsor us throughout the 6 months that we've been here and have lent confidence to our events. And today we have the privilege of having Delta as our sponsor. I'm going to ask Andres to introduce himself and introduce Delta. And thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to know how many people here need to travel for business. Raise your hand, please. That's really good. So, first of all, thank you very much, AI Salon. Thank you, Manatech, for this amazing opportunity. My name is Andres Collazos. I work in corporate sales at Delta Airlines. As you know, Delta Airlines is growing a lot here in the South Florida region. We are opening a ton of benefits for corporations, for companies growing here in the South Florida, giving free benefits, free like corporate agreements in order that they can travel from here to different places inside the US. So if you have a company, if you need to travel, please reach out to me. If you have anything extra related to travel, please contact me and we can talk a little bit more about the benefits that you can receive. This is an amazing thing that we are just having, just like continue contributing with the tech ecosystems. And thank you, Patricia, for making this possible, and all the AI Salon people that is here too. So have a great, excellent rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andres. I advise you to download the app because, I think that they give you points or something like that, right? He can let us know later. But I want to thank you also personally because at 8, we're gonna have an amazing catering, and it's gonna be Spanish food, thanks to the entire Alliance. And also because one of our speakers today is from Spain, Alejandro Acosta, and another one is also half from Spain, Kai Gomez. Mallorca. So we're gonna have a mix with ham croquetas, potatoes with bacon, but also pan tumaca, which is from, it's a Catalan cooking food. So we're gonna start now with Tal Milburn. Tal Milburn, we met a couple of years ago because he was one of my mentors at Founder Institute here in Miami. He's been a CTO for many Fortune 500 companies and AI technologies. Now he is an AI guru. The only investor here in South Florida that has been investing exclusively in artificial intelligence for over a decade. We have the pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And he's gonna tell us what is this word that everyone is, or acronym that we are hearing every day on the news, in small talks, AGI. AGI, what is AGI? So he's gonna tell us during half an hour what is it, and afterwards you're gonna have the time to ask him, well, whatever you want. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to try to get this done in 30 minutes, so we're going to be flying through this thing. Do understand that I don't expect that you would already know what AGI is, but that you probably know what AI is. And I will be challenging your mind. So feel free to take pictures, take the... and I'm blinking out over here. Hello? Oh, so it comes and goes. So anyway, let me just jump right on in here. So I've been in technology since I was 6 years old, and one of the earliest memories I have of technology was my parents took me to see 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I fell in love with HAL. Okay, I said this is going to be my life. So the good news is that I retired very early. I decided that I was going to do whatever I wanted to do, which was AI. So I also invest in things like that. So I'm all about this stuff, and I have a lot of fun. So today we're going to be going through some terms and concepts, background and history about AI, but super quick. Where we are today with regard to AGI, what's likely next, and inevitably there are some concerns with AGI. We'll be touching on those. So that takes too much time to do. It could be, you could do a course on this by itself. So let's go over some terms and concepts. I won't go over this page. You're welcome to take a picture of it. But there are 4 terms that you really need to understand. The first one is artificial narrow intelligence. Artificial narrow intelligence is where we are today. It means that it's very, very good at one very narrow area, okay? So it doesn't have general capabilities, but it's actually better than many humans. We'll talk about that, I'll qualify that in a minute, in some particular areas. Artificial general intelligence means that it's functionally equivalent to a human being. And the father of artificial intelligence is Alan Turing, and he came up with a thing called the Turing test. I'll give you the modern version of that. If you were in a chat on your computer with two different entities, one's human and one's not human, and you could not tell the difference, that passes the Turing test. Now, one of the things that they did not imagine is that in some ways AI is smarter than humans. So in that Turing test, it's possible that the AI will have to dumb itself down, because if it can answer a physics question and a biology question and a economics question, you would start getting suspicious that maybe this is not a human, because humans can't do that. So that's kind of interesting. And then artificial superintelligence, ASI, is when it's beyond human capability. And the basic idea is that once we hit AGI, hitting ASI is actually very, very soon to happen. And there are some reasons that I can tell you, but the old saying is, in the community is, there's no substrate constraint, which means right here, you're limited to this, but there is no limit to how many processors, how many kilowatts that you can give the AI, and so forth and so on. Now, importantly, just because it's artificially general intelligent or super intelligent does not mean it's conscious or sentient. And some people make the mistake, even people that are experts in the field make that mistake. There is a whole branch of science dealing with consciousness, and there's not even an agreement about what consciousness is, even though every person in this room knows what it is from a personal perspective. So let's jump right in a little bit about the history. So it's been amazing, actually, what AI has been able to do. In 1997, it was better than any chess player in the world. 2011, it beat in Watson, AlphaGo in 2015. And then they set a new goal, which is to win the gold medal at the International Math Olympiad, okay, which is for the smartest mathematicians in the world. This year it made silver. So it didn't quite make gold, and when it does make gold, they're gonna have to come up with another gold post. And we're running out of gold posts, which is kind of interesting. So there are, technology is additive, so it's been coming for many years, but the technology for AI has actually been around for a few decades, but there are two things that really lit the fire. The first one is the World Wide Web, because now we have an incredible amount of knowledge. In fact, you could say all of human knowledge is available online. And the second thing were GPUs, because GPUs are able to do floating point operations very, very quickly. So video games actually created GPUs, which helped AI accelerate. So the thing that was kind of surprising to so many people, though, is that for decades it's been assumed that AI would never be able to reach levels of creativity. And in fact, there's a good old movie, Woody Allen, in the future, AI pervades the world, and there is nothing, the only thing that's left for humans to do is creative things. So they sit around all day long and create poetry, really bad poetry, I might add. So, but what actually happened is the reverse. What happened is creative things started happening first. It started doing prose. It started writing poems. It started doing fiction essays. And that surprised everybody. And so the next thing is, and so instead of going up from low skill to creative, it started from creative, is now going down the pyramid. So right now, high skilled is the thing that it's tackling right now. High skilled being like legal, medical, and technical. And those industries are feeling the pinch with AI at this point. And those are high skilled professions. So it's not happening the way everybody thought it was going to. And in fact, the former chief scientist of OpenAI, which is Ilya Sutskever, he said that it surprised him because there are emergent properties that he never expected and that nobody else expected. And in fact, something around 20% of all the people who work at OpenAI feel like there's some AGI there They feel it, even though from a science mind, they know it's not there. So it's pretty amazing. It's enough to scare some scientists. So Max Tegmark, who is the CEO of the Future Life Institute, and Tegmark is a physicist, wanted to say, let's pause all AI development. And by the way, also on the Future of Life Institute is Elon Musk. They all wanted to pause it. It never happened. So anyway, that's the amazing times that we're in right now. So where are we today? Well, not everything works great. Okay, so we're gonna go through this very quickly. So semantic search works well. The depth of knowledge that it can do is pretty amazing. What's not so amazing is reasoning, being able to reason, because right now it's basically auto-completion on steroids. Now, here's the thing though, newsflash, less than a week ago, OpenAI dropped a bombshell. Okay, it's called GPT-01, and it's solved some things, and everybody in the industry has gone crazy about this. I haven't looked into it a lot, so I'm only going to be touching on what I know about it at this point. By the way, I was a beta tester for GPT 3.5, so, but that's not as glamorous as it sounds. It was mostly bickering about what is considered to be safety. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. I want to jump ahead to get to the next things. So what we've done is a result of the deficiencies of the current state of generative AI is we've created some workarounds. For reasoning, we've tried to create steps for it to go through. That's called chain of thought. And there are some other techniques for having the AI take a stepwise approach to solving the problem. Accuracy, also known as hallucinations, is a real problem. And so there are some solutions that people have cobbled together for that. One of them is it's called a mixture of experts. It's when you have multiple AI kind of opining on that particular answer. Memory is a key problem, okay? So they've created context, what is called a context window, and think of that as short-term memory, and it's gotten pretty big, but it still has its problems. And the one thing they haven't been able to solve, or haven't chosen to solve at this point, is learning. So you can learn things all day long with OpenAI, Anthropic, any of the models at all, but your learnings don't go back into the model. And by the way, there's a good reason for that, is that you could poison the model. Okay, so now when it comes to images, this image over here, and I'm completely amazed at this. This image is completely done by AI. This is not a deep fake. A deep fake is not that hard because I take a picture of somebody who exists and simply reproduce them in a different way. No, this is completely from the mind of the AI. If you can zoom in to this, you can see every single pore on the face. And I try to give credit for the people who do it. So images can be remarkably realistic and sometimes surprising and unexpected. So we can now generate videos up to about a minute. They're not very good. We're getting better at being able to generate videos. And when it comes to pictures, there's still defects in it. One of the biggest and most common defects is hands, okay? It was very common to see 6-finger hands in AI-generated images. And there's a good reason for that. There's simply not enough data. When I want to train a model on a face, there's lots of images looking at it this way, but hands can be all sorts of different directions and orientations, right? And trying to train a model on a hand that can have that much dexterity, pardon the pun, is very difficult to do. Now, the other thing, and I know I'm tight on time, but I've got to play this little clip. I am a composer. Yes, that's right. So now we can have AI write a score, play the score, and sing it. And it is amazing. So I'm going to play this song that I wrote. Thank you very much. So let's see if I can get this to work. I'm just going to play a couple of... Oh. Let's try it again. Nope. This always happens. We can do AI, but we can't get presentations to work. Okay, but you get that basic idea. It's completely amazing. And so there are people who are thinking, oh, AI is threatening my job. Yes, it is. But it's also enabling people like me to be a composer and a photographer and a videographer and everything else. And in fact, the picture that we saw, Eclectic Soul Food, is the guy who does that beautiful photography quality AI. He has a full-time job, and that's what he does. That's his paintbrush, is AI. So it is happening. So what is happening next? Okay, so here's a model that, Andrew Ning is an investor in Silicon Valley. By the way, I'm from Silicon Valley. I moved to Florida in 2019, so I was decades in Silicon Valley. Andrew, and there are a couple of people who put together this framework for what is AGI. The good news is that we are far enough along on the AGI journey that we can actually figure out what are the steps we need to get there. And so on the y-axis, we have chat, processing, and context, reasoning and learning, agency, and Kai will be talking about that, and tool use, and multi-agency, okay? So that's how the thinking will go. But in order to be AGI, it really needs to have an emotional component, which is more formally referred to as affect. So the affective capability is sympathetic, empathetic, and emotionally intelligent. And once we're emotionally intelligent in multi-agency, we will be an AGI. Where are we today? We're about right here in September of 2024. That went up last week when OpenAI released that new model. So by the way, the new model is called O1. They're restarting it at 1, and the O means it's omnimodal, which is a fancy way of saying it does images, sound, and text, and language. Okay? So I won't go over where we are, what we've accomplished so far, but what do we need to do next? So reasoning and learning has to happen next. So reasoning requires thinking about thinking, that's called metacognition, applying strategies and recognizing mistakes. And that GPT-01 looks to try to solve that particular set of problems. You also need to be able to do some learning if you're going to be able to do it. Once we've accomplished this step, I should be able to do here some of these example tasks. So there will be a time that once we have this capability that a movie director could say, here is the movie script, here are the biographies and the names of all the actors in this film, here's the production design, write the complete score. And there's no reason why you can't do that, okay? Or another example is that given the written, digital, measured evidence, who committed this crime? Given this DNA profile and medical history out of the EMR, what is their problem? And so forth and so on. So even before we hit AGI, we will be able to do amazing things. And some of these are some of the reasoning things we should be able to do. What's next? So I have to keep on time. So the next step is being agentic. That's a fancy way of saying it has agency, which is a fancy way of saying that it can operate on its own. So agentic AI means that it can work without a human in a loop. Today, it happens in one of two basic modes. As a daemon, okay, which is basically a process running on a server somewhere, or in chat, or in human interaction. So when they're able to operate on their own, they're called agentic. And that's when we get to the next level. Now, in order to be effective as an agentic AI, they need to be able to use tools. So that's actually more daunting than you can imagine. So for example, if I say, okay, John, book me a flight to Barbados, okay, with hotel and so forth and so on. That's actually a fairly, pretty complicated work because not every website looks the same. They may want you to validate your name and password. They want to know this, that, and the other. And that's actually a fairly complicated thing. So there's two ways of solving the tool problem. Is actually having super smart adaptive AI and training them on all the different travel websites and so forth, all the different things that they can do, and or make those sites more AI friendly. Okay, so that the AI can see the markers on the website and go, oh, okay. And so that even though you can't see it as a human, the AI can see these things and use these tools. So you need an agentic, you need to have agency, you need to be able to use tools to get to this next level. Okay? So, now, it's imagined that by the year 2030, most Fortune 100 companies will have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of agents roaming, doing the work. Okay? They're doing everything from rebalancing the treasury, which is how they do investments, that's how they invest their money, to figuring out what is the optimal workloads, and so forth and so on. So they'll all be working in the background. So now, here's where things get a little speculative. So one of the big conversations, by the way, AGI 2024, which is an annual conference, and this year it happened about 3 weeks ago, and it was in Seattle, and it's put on by a scientist, Ben Kozel. And there's a lot of argument about this next step, okay? But the idea is that in order to be human intelligent, maybe the best way of doing it is not trying to be exactly a human intelligent way, but to be more of a swarm intelligence, okay? Human intelligence, and so that is called, a fancy term for that, by the way, is a functional isomorph. In other words, maybe the intelligence is not a functional isomorph of humans. It's not patterned on how a brain works, but actually how a swarm works. And for those of you who like video games, okay, this was the video game Mass Effect 2, the GAF, is what people often refer to. So you'll be in these conferences, you'll be talking about the GAF. The GAF is a swarm AI out of the video game from 2010. And if you don't already know, you need to have copies of that. Shame on you. You need to have. So anyway, that's the idea, is that we will have a swarm intelligence. So the idea being is that this particular AI bot will be doing the hotel, this one will be doing the air, this one will be doing the this and that and the other, and they will be coordinating amongst each other. It becomes a swarm. And so now there are models for how is it that the swarm will work together. So there's hierarchical plans, there's what they call associative, where there is no hierarchy. The hierarchy one seems to be the one that works the best so far. But scientists and a lot of research is going into what is the best swarm configuration in order to get this done. Because remember another thing too, like ants, I can make lots and lots and lots of bots. So it's easy for me to do a swarm. Okay, so that may be how it's going to look. And then as with the GAF, they have a robot which was the spokesperson for the swarm. Okay? So now, how will AI take in the future? Well, today, like I mentioned, it's daemons, which is basically a server processor, very common. Digital humans is a very likely form factor for AGI. Someday you will be on a Zoom call talking to a colleague who doesn't exist. They will be talking, they will look like a human, they will talk like a human, they will respond like a human, but they're not human. They're a digital human. And in fact, a very popular icon in Korea right now is Sua. Sua is a digital celebrity. She appears all over advertising, on billboards. She doesn't exist. She's a digital human. So, right now, some of the game engine makers are working with NPCs, which the non-playing characters in video games are going to be AI. It'll be done what they call, now I forgot the name, but basically they're going to be generated on the spot. And then we could get into robots, and that is referred to as embodied AI. Embodied AI may not look like a human. It may be a cart. It may be a car, full self-driving cars, okay, et cetera, et cetera. That's referred to as embodied. And by the way, we said that consciousness does not equal AGI. Some people will think in the community that in order to be conscious, not only do you have to be intelligent, but you have to be embodied. Okay, you need to have the sensory network. All right, so let's talk about some of the concerns. So Professor Lynch, Michael Patrick Lynch is a professor at University of Connecticut. And he's come up with a framework, I've enhanced his framework a little bit here, about some of the concerns with AI, okay? And there's a whole host of concerns. We start with individual concerns, we go all the way up to social concerns. In the middle are psychosocial, okay? So here is just basically an example of the 7 categories of concerns. We have safety, dependency, bias, weaponization. SP well means self-poisoning well. I'll tell you what that is in a second. Job loss and misalignment. So when it comes to safety, most of that is handled by the AI providers, and that is something that most people will agree with. You should not tell people how to build a bomb, so forth and so on. So the EU is putting together some pretty heavy regulations. Some people are not liking it in order to cover safety. The United States is doing less, but we do have agreement that there will be red teaming, which means basically examining, trying to get it to misbehave. And recently, this announcement I told you about on OpenAI 01, they presented it to the Pentagon about 3 weeks ago before they released it. So they did give them a heads up. Okay, so that's kind of where we are with regard to safety. The next one is dependency. This is the one that a lot of people don't get. Okay, for the first time in history, we have a technology that you can be emotionally attached to. That's profound in its significance. And in fact, at any given moment, there are hundreds of thousands of people in the United States talking with their companion bots, with either kindred or replica, and they have relationships with them, and they go on dates with them, and so forth and so on. And for many of those people, that's the only kind of emotional relationship they have. For other people, they are recovering from a bad emotional relationship, etc. But the thing is that for the first time, AI could be insidious in that it renders human. If it renders a human vulnerable to manipulation or to mental health, then it's a bad thing. Otherwise, it could be a good thing. But it's certainly a concern. Okay. The third one is the one that you hear the most about, and that's bias. And I think most scientists would tell you that the problem is not the AI, it's the humans. We as a society don't agree on what bias is. And so I told you as a beta tester for GPT 3.5, there was huge threads, people going back and forth arguing about, well, this is bias, this is bias, this is bias, but nobody was agreeing. And we weren't getting anywhere. So that was one of the problems. So what they are doing is that the big platform makers are putting in filters, and they're trying to make them unbreakable. The new 01 is even less breakable than the previous generations. And by the way, the name for breaking an AI and getting it to take its filters off is called jailbreaking. And so it's becoming harder and harder to do that. So unfortunately, it is what it is. And one of the biggest problems about bias that we also talk about is that people in the future will be able to create their own filters. So they'll create their own echo chambers. So that's not a good thing at all. So that is bias that's destructive. Weaponization. This is the deliberate use of AI for control or manipulation without the knowledge or consent of the impacted individual. Weaponization has already happened. It happened in 2016 election. It happened in 2020 election. It's happening in the current election. And it's happening at scale. So it is a big concern. Now, understand that this is an important thing to understand. The people who do this kind of weaponization don't necessarily see what they're doing as bad. So some of the time they give you misinformation. That's different than disinformation. There are also people who are giving you disinformation. They know it's bad. They know they're not telling the truth. But understand that a great number of the misinformation you have, people believe that this is indeed true. That they are doing it for your benefit, for religious reasons, for social reasons, for governmental reasons, etc. By the way, all these images were created by AI. I think that goes without saying. So the self-poisoning well, which is one of the least concerning of the concerns up here because we think we probably solved it. Self-poisoning well is this. Remember that how you train AI is that it's basically read the entire internet. Well, more and more of what's on the internet was created by AI. So AI, reading AI is called a self-poisoning well. It's sort of like, cannibalism. It's AI cannibalism, basically what it is. So it is a concern, and it's actually showing up in some results. In certain topics, most of the material that's available is AI generated, which was AI generated, and so forth and so on. So let's call it self-poisoning well. It's a concern. Professor Lynch came up with that, and he's really championing that one. Job loss. This is a serious issue. There is no doubt that it will have some impact on jobs. Now, for a lot of people, it will simply be a change in jobs. Okay, some of the people that are best able to have a change in job are the high-skilled jobs that are going to be impacted, like legal, medical, and technical. They'll simply go to a different type. Like, for example, within a couple of years, a radiologist, even today, radiology AI is better than most humans, the vast majority of humans. And you will be at a point where you cannot be a radiologist and not use AI. It will be malpractice. And there will be a point at which there won't be a radiologist because you're just getting somebody in the way. So yeah, there will be some impact to some jobs. There will be new jobs. But yes, the promise of the future, if you will, is that we will be able to not work. And so there are some futurists who are beginning to consider that and talk about things like UBI, Universal Basic Income. The idea is that everybody would be taken care of at a basic minimum. There are problems, and it's our feeling, is the way we are brought up in this society, to be against that from the get-go. But it is something that is being discussed. And then last but not least is what is called misalignment. Alignment is a term that's used in AI to mean the correspondence of the values and goals of humans versus AI. You don't want misalignment. You want the AI's goals and values and morals to be the same as humans. And if they get out of alignment, that could be the problem. So it is something that we're concerned with. Now, a lot of people would think that we're anthropomorphizing that, which is to say, if we were the AI, we would be doing bad things. Just like we colonized, that the AI is going to colonize us. They're going to take over the world. We're just assuming that because we would be bad, that they would be bad. And there's some legitimacy. If you look at most science fiction movies made in the last 40 years, the aliens are always bad guys. They're almost never good guys, right? We just assume that's how it's, advanced technology, whether it's aliens or AI, is going to happen. Well, it's not necessarily a sound way of thinking. So anyway, let me keep going here. And I think we're closing. So we've taken a very brief tour of AGI and a little bit of other things. We've covered terms and concepts, a technology journey, a framework for looking at AI, how we're going. We talked about some safety concerns. And there's 3 words that I would like to leave with you today, okay? Because each one of you in this room will be profoundly impacted by AI. Many of you already are impacted by AI. The 3 words are learn, discern, and participate. And what I mean by that is that your greatest strength as a human being is your ability to learn, and you want to continue to learn going forward. Always learn. Learn to your to your interests and capabilities. The second one, this is critically important. You need to teach all of our children this. Discern. Know what it seems to be factual and backed up with reliable sources, trustworthy sources, etc., etc. Be able to know what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true, and be able to know that, because that's a very human trait. And the last thing is participate. Every person, regardless of their technical capabilities, can participate in the conversation. So maybe it's going to be on the human factors end of the scale. Maybe it's more on technology. Maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe it's legal. Maybe it's something else. But everybody can participate in the conversation. But it continues on with you or without you. So learn, discern, and participate. And thank you.
Wow, I don't know if you think like me, but I think that was amazing. Also a 3-element word. So I'm gonna open the floor. If you have any questions, please press the microphone, because it's been amazing. I'll go next.
I'm just like amused by the fact that you said that how is what got you into AI. But Hal is not a good guy. It is misalignment gone really bad. So how do you justify, or how do you mix those 2 things and still be going forward?
Well, I saw it as a preteen, so I was just amazed at the technology, not so much the value. I wasn't considering the value system. I was probably thinking that he was misprogrammed, And as it turns out, if you see the sequel, 2010, basically that's basically what happened. Is that it's the human's fault at the end of the day. But anyway, no, that didn't deter me at all. But I'm not an evil scientist.
That's what I was trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. My question is, so far you show us a point where we are right now and how far are we from AGI. But my understanding is that all the models have used all the data from the internet already. So that means that from now on, all the extra data had to be synthetic data. So it's not real data. How that's gonna be good or bad to reach AGI?
Yeah. All right. So the problem at this point is not lack of data. Okay, to your point, at this point we're going to synthetic data. There's also, most knowledge is not public. So every one of these, corporations that has a big building here, they have a lot of data that is not public. And so some vendors like IBM, for example, are trying to emphasize private data over public data. But that's not the issue. The issue is reasoning. It's not so much data. So right now we do pretty much have the world's knowledge base in the models. But yeah, that's not so much the problem. It is a concern and people are trying to address it, but that's not going to stop us. That's not a showstopper.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is a sort of a corollary to that. It appears that things have sort of exploded with this whole topic in the last couple of years. But a lot of this technology has been around for a while. If for like computers, Moore's law was sort of the underlying function of progress, what is that underlying function in this? Because when we talk about AI, we're talking about so many different things, right? And so what is that underlying function? Like if you look at like, you know, Ray Kurzweil, he says that we're going to hit AGI in what, like late 2020, 2027. But you also hear that like it is more of a step function. It's not like we're in a straight, you know, exponential curve to AGI. So what is that underlying function that's driving sort of this? And is it a smooth curve, or is it like a step function? Is it like more fits and starts?
Yeah. So it's a great question. One of the reasons why I did that first slide was William Gibson said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. That's very true in so many ways. You know, the farmer in Angola has almost no electricity, yet, you know, here we are talking about AI. So it's very uneven. The same thing with technology. Technology has been accelerating for all of history. A great book I would recommend was written in the 1970s called Future Shock. They predicted that the rate of change is so fast that people would have difficulty in dealing with things. So, but even that curve, when made linear, is still very nonlinear. So you're right, it's in fits and starts. So the basic idea of completion has been around for decades, but it was something that ignited it, and that was, you know, GPUs. It was the World Wide Web, and then it was just viral. We don't know why some things just turn on. And I can tell you that you're going to be surprised. So futurists have a really bad job because they're almost always wrong. And so Kurzweil's latest book, which I'm reading and I would recommend, you know, he's making some predictions, but there's very good chance that something completely out of left field is going to pop up and surprise the hell out of us. You know, and you know, there are things that won't happen. So people who say that they were able to predict the internet or the web before it ever happened, yeah, most people don't believe that. Or you could say, well, I have 10,000 predictions, one of them is bound to happen, right? But that came out of left field. The whole idea that the whole world would change. We've had 4 major technology revolutions in 30 years. We had the internet in 1992, or the World Wide Web in 92. We had mobile, we had social, and now AI. And so they're coming at it as fast and furious. Some people say, okay, the next thing is quantum. Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe that AI will be so amazing that, you know, we won't even care about things like quantum and nano.
So we're gonna thank you very much, Tal. He's gonna be available until the end of the night to answer all your questions. It's been amazing again. Thank you. We're gonna continue with the program. Actually, I hope that he will come back because, you know, it's been amazing. Do you agree? Yes. Okay, so we ask you to come back another time. Okay, so I wanted to say that we had actually Kurzweil best friend and colleague here in July, Jose Luis Cordero. He's also a dear friend of mine. And when he was here, remember that he said the date is 2030. Only 2 months later, we are already talking about 2027 because AI is advancing things very, very fast. So who knows? Maybe with the swarms, Kai's technology, we're gonna ship it in 2 years. That's what I hope. Okay, so, well, now I want to welcome Kai Gomez, born and raised in Miami. Kai Aliyah, hey, made in Miami. Thank you, Kai. So we're gonna have actually a fireside, a one-on-one conversation, and then I'm gonna open the microphone so that you can ask him also other questions. As you have seen on LinkedIn, we have told you that today we're gonna talk about the AI the latest AI technology, which is the Swarms framework. And Kai is the one that is gonna tell us a little bit about it because he's the person behind the Swarms, made in Miami. Thank you. So, yeah, I will start like, how old are you? I know, but he's pretty young, right? When we met, I was impressed because I found out that you had been working as an AI engineer since you were 11, so he was not supposed to be working, but he was, behind the curtains, I would say. So impressive. He is leading the Agora Lab. He has more than 8,000, right? Community members. The Swarms were born actually as an open source project within the Agora Lab 2.5 years ago. Everyone now is talking about swarming, the Swarms. When I met him, I didn't know that he was behind this. I was very surprised that I knew him, and wow, a guy from Miami, okay, and he's just back from Palo Alto, and he's gonna stay here. He has decided to have the headquarters of his company here in Miami, so we are very, very proud, and we hope that this is gonna put Miami on the map worldwide for, being known as the AI-based solutions startups. That's what we will want, right? So, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Well, first I would like to say that I think the entire reason why we're doing this is because, like, the entire reason we started Swarms and the entire reason we started Agora is to make AI research free and open. I think way too many people are like unnecessarily, AI's ability to, make money is absurd. But we started Swarms and Agora just to help people save time, like a lot of time, and that's why we do this.
So, for the people in the audience, how many people know what is the Swarms framework? Some, but not many. So imagine that we are all high schoolers. How will you explain what is this technology?
So a swarm is essentially 2 agents or more that work together. So essentially, at any point in time, we have more than 2 AIs that work together. That's a swarm. But swarms can have different ranges. There's like a spectrum. There's you can have 5 agents. You can have 500 agents. You can have millions and millions and millions of agents. It's relatively a spectrum. So I would say that at any point in time, if you have 2 intelligences, they can be artificial, or they can even be human. Right now in this room, we are a swarm because there's more than 2 of us, and we are all communicating together. We're all exchanging information, and that is that's the principle of swarm theory. Swarm theory is basically the same study of distributed computing. Anytime you have more than 2 computers talking together, that's a distributed computer, and that's essentially the premise of a swarm.
Yeah, when I think aloud, so yeah, I know the theory is from the 90s. You weren't even born because he's 20 years old, 21 now in a couple of days. That gave you the idea, right? Tell us a little bit how that did happen. And also, I heard that this technology is gonna make it's gonna make possible that in $100 laptop that we can all buy, we could have 100,000 AI agents collaborating, working for us, on a task. task or on a project, right? And I think that a lot of people are maybe thinking, but what is an agent, right? I think that he needs to clarify that.
Yeah, so first things first, what is an agent? So it's a spectrum of definitions. Everybody has different definitions for an agent. What I would define as an agent is LLM or some form of AI that can take actions digitally with tools. And so like external APIs. Like let's say if you wanted an LLM to generate an email for you and to send this email, that would be an agent because it's taking an action on an external platform, and it's essentially it has a goal at the lowest level imaginable, like the lowest definition. An agent is anything that has an objective. So anything that like intelligently knows it has an objective, and it has to essentially keep doing things in a loop until it could understand that it's finished with that activity and leave a loop. It's essentially a loop. Yeah.
I would like also that there is a RAG, right? The long-term memory, right? So let's clarify for the audience. So an AI agent is an LLM with a tool to make an action, right, or task, plus a RAG, right? It has a long memory. So this is solving, and by them working together is solving one of the huge problems that we have, that is the hallucinations, right?
Yeah, so essentially RAG, for those who haven't heard the word, it has a lot of definitions, and it has a lot of synonyms. Like long-term memory is like very similar to RAG, is the same thing. Essentially, like there is a window of available space that an LLM can understand, and within this space, there is a certain amount of words that can fit in this space. For GPT-4, up until a couple of months ago, it was 16,000 different words or tokens. I'm saying words for simplification, but when you hear token, just think of a word. And so this window, if you put more words than this window allows, the LLM will just explode. Like it will not know what to do. Like the gradients would just essentially collapse. And so to overcome that issue of this window, what you would do is you would have a database, which is RAG. RAG is just a database for vectors, which vectors are just some information in some space. And essentially what the RAG does, when we have an agent, the agent will query the database for a response, and then from the database, and then that agent will give you the final response. That's essentially how RAG works. If you say, I wanted to find last week's lease documents, and it would essentially look in the database for those documents, and then it would put that into the LLM's memory. And then it would have like the ability to understand that document. And this is typically what's done in extreme production cases. Like if you're definitively gonna have like hundreds of thousands of words or even millions of words, you would almost always resort to RAG.
I was actually playing around yesterday with the O1 Mini and Preview. I really advise the O1 Mini for coding, it's impressive. And the O1 Preview for actually thinking, reasoning. So I cannot imagine if I'm working with an agent that is working with the O1 Preview, and another agent with the O1 Mini, and another agent with Sonnet, and in the beginning, also for maybe brainstorming the idea, I'm working with ChatGPT for, what's gonna be the result? That's insane, like the rack of the preview and the mini, I don't know I don't remember how much is it, but it's like at least 20 times the 4.0. I mean, that thing never stops. Are you already using those LLMs with the swarms?
Yeah, of course. So every time we a new model releases, we almost always integrate them. O1 is really good for like extreme reasoning tasks. So like any form of a task that requires extreme reasoning. Like Kaltera is a really good one. We're using swarms of O1s to essentially summarize medical documents and medical research to help people scrape through potential treatment plans for specific diagnosis. So that's like things like that require extreme amounts of reasoning or even code generation. The code generation is particularly good, especially for mathematical code. So if you need to generate code for mathematics or science even, O1 is really good for that.
So I would like to know about your plans. I heard that you already have 37 million swarms working and that you are planning to have 1 billion by the end of the year. Is that gonna put us closer to the AGI or the AGIs maybe?
37 plus million agents. Swarms would be, that would be a lot. That would be multiple billions. So contrary to popular belief, I think we already have AGI right now. GPT-4 is already smarter than most humans in most things, if prompted correctly. Especially if GPT-4 is a better programmer than, say, 98% of programmers. It also knows how to generate better contracts, sales contracts, partnership contracts than most, than even the best attorneys. And it's also very cheap. So honestly though, I from my perspective, GPT-4 is already decent AGI. The next step after this is super intelligence, because it is singular. It's not intelligences, it's just one model. And I keep seeing people very, very bullish on AGI and ASI, but that's only one of them. Only having one thing, especially AGI, ASI can only do one thing at a time. That's useless. But if you have multiple AGIs, then you can do many things at one time. And that's actually valuable because then you can do many things at once at scale. And that's kind of the whole theory of a swarm. Agents, individual LLMs, AIs, even humans have the same limitations. The first one being hallucination. AIs and even humans, all animals are always going to hallucinate because they don't have access to infinite information. And so everybody, including AIs, are always hallucinating. We're always saying things that don't exist, that aren't right. And so that's number one. The second thing is, like I said, one AI, ChatGPT, when you use ChatGPT, it's only doing one thing at a time. It can't do more than 50, it can't do 50 things at once.
But humans can. I'm multitasking, and most women are. How many women are here? Come on. Yeah, but interesting.
I would definitely agree. So the reason we exist as a project, as an organization, is to solve these problems I've just mentioned. Before us, ChatGPT could barely be used inside of an enterprise setting. That's because it's going to hallucinate. You can only do one thing at a time, and it's not always going to be accurate. And so, like, these issues, basically, up until the ability for multiple AIs to work together and collaborate, the capacity for these systems to be deployed into real world businesses and enterprises 24/7 was extremely prohibitive. Because like I said, you can only do one thing at a time. There was never a company in human history that was built off of the back of one person. It was always hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, even now in modern day, millions of different people, agents, working together and getting things done. So that is the reason we exist. The applications for swarms, for multi-agent collaboration, is basically anything that humans can do digitally, agents are starting to do better than humans. Including code generation, analyzing healthcare. To give you a little story, I went to a dermatologist a couple days ago in Boca Raton. I just wanted to see about like this pimple on my arm or something. And when I got there, it's hilarious. The doctor didn't even diagnose me. It didn't give me a single diagnosis. They were like, we already have a treatment for this, so we can get started right now. She didn't even know what it was. And I don't think things like this are useful for human beings. I created a team of dermatologist agents to take a picture of my arm and tell me exactly what it was, gave me a perfect diagnosis. I called up another friend of mine who's a doctor, and he confirmed the agent's results. So like the applications to this are anything humans can do digitally, code, generating code, writing emails, maintaining relationships, analyzing x-rays, analyzing MRIs. Agents can do, I say now, almost as good as a slightly above average person. And it won't be too long until they completely exceeded us in every single skill, in every single industry, in every single application. And that is our objective.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that there are still doubts about what is an agent and what is an LLM. So an agent has an LLM as a component, right? But if you go to ChatGPT, it's gonna tell you how to do things, maybe, right? But it's not gonna do the things. What he's proposing is that the agent is gonna do the things. He's doing actually the things. It's not about, you can do this like this. It's doing it because we are giving the agent the tool to do it. And they have a boss, and the boss says, you are gonna do it. You are gonna do it this way. So that's, we say, we are high schoolers, right? So, and then there was another thing that I was thinking regarding the AGIs, when you said that you think that we somehow are already, there. I can understand why you're saying this. I don't think that we are fully there, but every week we are closer and closer. I'm not saying every day now, but maybe in 2 months I will, change my mind. It would be, because this goes so fast that if in July I thought it was gonna be 2030, 2029, and now we are convinced it's gonna be 2027, well, maybe it's 2025 or 2026. I think that everything is going so fast, right? But there is one thing that Tal pointed out. I think that the only thing that we are missing now is the emotional intelligence. Because no scientist has agreed on a definition of what is the mind. I think that that's the key. We humans don't agree on what is the mind. we know that the mind is like the 4 E's, right? The embodied, embedded, there's a theory, right? The environment in which we are is part of our mind. So, and artificial intelligence is not there yet. So it's very close to the AGI, but until it doesn't reach that point, I wouldn't say that we have reached and we have passed the Turing test. Although in some areas, I think that we have.
If you're discussing the ability for an AI to detect emotions, I think. Oh, not just that. Okay. Even in that situation, GPT-4 is extremely good at detecting human emotions. If you create, if you have just one agent, ChatGPT, and you say, I want you to analyze the emotional, the emotional score of this response, it would be very capable of literally dissecting anything you give it and analyzing your current state of mind with a very, very precise accuracy rate. Especially if you give it vision, because most text is not a very good form of data. The world is very visual. So if you give it a picture of your face and you say, what is the emotional status? What is my emotional status? It would very, very accurately dissect quadrants of your face and analyze your, are your eyes fully open? Are you smiling? Are you not smiling? What is the other facial features that can analyze your emotional status? And that's as a lot of organizations in crime enforcement are actually using things like this through security cameras to find suspects. So this is AI is getting pretty good. Like I said, I think GPT-4 is almost as good as a human in any possible thing already.
I agree if you think of an IQ, but not the EQ yet. And you are not gifted unless you have both intelligence higher than normal as a human.
I don't think we should be trying to make AIs emotional. I think that's a very, very dangerous thing to do. Because AIs now, they're purely statistical. They do exactly what you tell them. But when you give them emotions, that's when bad things start to happening and misalignment. Things like greed, malice, selfishness. These things will surely not lead to good outcomes.
We'll see. I'm gonna open the mic to everyone here, so who wants to ask something first?
So I have a question about the pimple. So in real life, we have swarms, and they're called markets. And then in markets, there's transactions, and there's a process of price discovery, right? So the transactions are successful, and we know what the value of something is. When you make a swarm of AIs, and they're trying to diagnose your pimple, what is the mechanism to establish veracity for that swarm? What do you use?
Veracity?
Yeah, how do you know which model is correct in its diagnosis, right? Because you can have something that, in a real market, there could be a contrarian, and the contrarian is correct. And the market rewards the contrarian for being closer to truth, right? So I was curious what mechanism you're using for establishing the veracity of the diagnosis.
So that, the answers would apply to the same things that humans use. Humans don't know really much. We use the internet to search everything up. So you can simply just give the internet or medical scholarly articles and give that to the agent so it can then proceed to do research on this given topic and come up with a conclusion. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can use human information, right? You can use the web and look up like medical research articles that doctors wrote. You can also, and that's essentially how it's been done up until now, because these agents were trained on human data. So that's essentially what happened in this given situation. I gave them the ability to look through articles on PubMed, and they essentially then verified this diagnosis. And this diagnosis came at a fraction of the cost, a great fraction. The treatment would have costed around like $19,000 something dollars. Just like asking the doctor, and it's something very stupid. And the diagnosis, especially with healthcare costs increasing, and just like other forms of like having to diagnose or something through Medicare or even financial, it would have been very costly. But I did this for not even like less than a couple of cents.
Rebecca?
Hi, in regards to your last response with AI and your statement on we really don't want AI to be emotional, wouldn't you be, okay, well, just hear me out. Wouldn't you be able to program all AIs, say, listen, I don't want you to touch grief, I don't want you to touch this, that, or the other, all of the negative emotions, and only keep the positive ones? Is that a possibility? No. You don't think so?
Well, that's essentially what happened. So, a very good example of this would be the story of Genesis. When God created angels, he didn't necessarily think that Satan would be his enemy. In fact, Satan was the most beautiful angel that ever existed. And so, as soon as you give things free will or good attributes, there is no good without bad. So I honestly don't think nobody should be thinking about this. This could lead to very bad things. And there's a good show you should watch. It's called Terminator Zero. It's a new Terminator. It came out. It's like an anime, but it's really good, and it looks into this exact question you've asked me just now.
Thank you, John. Gene and John.
So going back to the pimple, what did you feed it? A picture, and the other question is what distinguished the different agents one from the other? In other words, you're saying they were a team of dermatologists, but what distinguished one from the other?
So, question one, images, of course. So I gave it an image, and then that leads into the second answer. So all of the dermatologist agents were specialized for different forms of dermatology practice. So I created a series of agents. Actually, I didn't even create the agents. I had an agent creator create the agents for me. And so then this director, which is a hierarchical swarm, as he mentioned, which is very powerful because all human organizations are hierarchical or hierarchical. I don't know how to say the word, but yeah. Like in companies, you have a boss, right? In a medical healthcare organization, you have a director. Even in nonprofit organizations, you still have like a director. I mean, even in communist countries where there's supposedly no hierarchy at all, you still have like supreme leader or something ridiculous. Basically the different agents were specialized for different types of dermatology research. And all the agents basically had access to an API that would essentially look up like very, very specific medical queries to then accurately determine the right diagnosis. So it was essentially like a peer-reviewed dermatology diagnosis. It was like very peer-reviewed, and for very cheap, very, very cheap.
Yeah, maybe I will say, a leader. Every organization has a leader. It's about leadership, and then you can take the model that you want. Thank you so much, Kyle. It's been really amazing having you visiting us. And he's gonna be networking with us, I think, until the end of the night. So you can ask him directly as many questions as you want. And thank you so much. I'm gonna give the mic to my colleague, Alexander Grasover. It's our secretary, and he's gonna lead the demo.